Hey, it's King-style Ferrets here. Today we're going to talk about ferret cages. We're going to talk about size, we're going to talk about construction, how to kit them out, so let's get to it. So we all know that ferrets are really strong, capable and very good escape artists, so they do need a cage which is pretty much indestructible as far as they're concerned. This means you need a fully metal wire cage. And none of this stuff that you can get in pet shops where you can easily just squeeze the wires together and it's attached to plastic. This needs to be a solid metal construction from top to bottom. They'll have a good go in a cage rage at this, but it's not going anywhere and they're not going to escape. Now there's a number of these on the market, and probably the most common one that you'll hear in terms of brand name is the Ferret Nation or the Critter Nation, and they're sold by Midwest Homes. There are other brands on Amazon or your local pet shop, such as this one here, which is a very similar design, but quite often at a bit of a discount. But essentially the same basic design. You've got really strong wire mesh with plenty of support. Size-wise, again, you probably find them quite similar, but let's check out what this one is here, just for context. That's 154 centimetres tall, but part of it is just sitting on stilts, so it's not really the usable space, which is 128 tall, 92 wide, 63 deep. That to me is the minimum size. It doesn't matter whether you have one ferret or two or three, you don't really want anything smaller than what I've just measured there. Ferrets will cage rage, they'll grab hold of these bars and they'll shake them like crazy, and some models have very simple just push clips and they can shake them free. So anything that looks like it has a lot of friction, a lot of security in terms of a lock, that's what you want with the ferrets. Now one of the key design things to look at when you're buying a cage is the door setup, and critical is that it has floor to ceiling doors. There's no good having a little porthole that you find on some of them. The access is terrible and it's an absolute nightmare to clean and just to get in anywhere when necessary. This one has full doors which open fully, so it allows much easier access. Now, better even than that, and I think even on the Ferret Nation ones, is they have two opening doors. So this one is not quite as good because it doesn't have that second opening door, therefore does limit the access more than would be the case if you had two doors. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, you can get in there. Now, ferrets are not tree animals. They're not chinchillas or similar rodents who like to jump up and down lots of levels and sit naturally on branches and twigs. So they need much more of a sturdier set of levels, fewer levels, much bigger levels to sit and play on. Some designs, such as this one, contain far too many levels, and it doesn't provide as good a safe or as comforting location for a ferret to live as this design. Obviously between all the levels you will have little ramps, and we'll cover those in a second, but let's just quickly discuss the material, these solid floors. So this model again is made out of metal flooring. Now metal trays is not ideal for a number of reasons. Firstly, in the winter they can get quite cold, and in the summer they can get quite hot. And in any event, when you get water on them, especially urine, they can start to degrade and rust pretty quickly. To that extent, a plastic tray may be preferable, but again, a plastic tray has its own follies. It may not have the temperature swings, but it's still a bit slippy and not that comfortable to sit on and walk on. So what people do tend to do is have covers or linings for their trays. Now for the Ferret Nation, you can buy ready-made covers for these things. They're just little slips and the trays go in them, and it keeps them all nice and in position. If you don't want to fork out on that, you can DIY it. You can, if you're a good seamstress, you can get a blanket and make your own covers. You could go on eBay, they tends to be, or Etsy, there tend to be other people there selling them at a better rate. Or you could simply just get a blanket and attempt to wrap these trays yourself. Now, the problem with that is that ferrets just like to dig and snuffle into things, so no matter how well you wrap the blanket around the tray and sit it in and tie it up, they're going to sort of dig at the end, and eventually they're going to get under it and they're going to pull the blanket away, and it's just going to, you're going to wake up in the morning, it's going to be a ruffled mess, just pretty much looking like that in the middle of the cage. Another critical design decision for these cages is that they must not have any wire flooring. Wire floors are terrible for ferret feet. They can damage them, and yes, incredibly painful. Now you might just think you can cover them up, but it's a bit of a faff to do that for an entire floor structure. You may as well just go looking for a design which has solid floors. Now, because they've got multi-levels, they do come with little ramps that go in between, and again, this model came with wire ramps, which again, it looks like it's good for grip, but it's not good for ferret feet. But this is not so much a problem because this is a lot easier to fix and remedy with the likes of a thick sock or similar. There you go. We've got one ladder which is now quite happily and safe for ferrets, and this sock gives them the grip as well to run up it if necessary. Okay, so you've chosen your cage coverings, you've got your ladders in. Now what's next? Let's think about what goes into a ferret, their food and their water. Now the obvious thing for water is that they try and sell you these things in the shop, and we're not a fan of these at all. They're not great for ferrets for a couple of reasons. First, it takes them a long time to drink to happily get the amount of water they need from a water bottle. But also, and mainly, the width of this water bottle just fits between their two canines, and it rubs on the inner side of their both canines, and what happens is it wears them away, so it results in canine damage. So we don't recommend these things at all for ferrets. So you'd be wanting to look for a solution which they can't move, but that gives them free access to drinking water from a bowl. One option could be these bowls, which have a little socket to hold them in place. Keeps them from knocking it over, pushing it around. They can still dig a bit more at that, but that could be a good option for you, and you can use that both for food and another one for water. But another option is a sort of a combination of a water bottle which feeds into a drinking trough. So they get free drinking water, but the ease and security and sort of cleanliness of a water bottle, but without the dental damage. Food-wise can be a similar story in terms of ferrets digging in their kibble. Again, you may wish to use something that keeps it secure and out of the way, off the floor, like these cage bowls here. Or you can use something with a bit of weight to it, like these little, another version of a ceramic bowl. Doesn't need to be as big because they don't have that much kibble in there. You can get even dinkier bowls again. So different sizes. Again, I just love ceramic bowls because they're pretty good in terms of hygiene, pretty bomb-proof for a ferret. But if you do put their food or water on tray, it's probably advisable to get another tray to put it on. It'll catch all the spillage and make it easier clean up. So we've discussed what goes into a ferret. Now let's look at what comes out of the ferret. So we're going to talk about how to prepare for their bathroom, their litter. So if you do want to try litter, then you need a litter tray. Space is always going to be a concern in the cage, and a corner litter tray like this is a good option. This one in particular, you'd be looking for something with a high back, because ferrets, they reverse when they're doing their poops, and sometimes they aim upwards a little bit and it can come firing out, and you don't want to see poops firing out through the wire because it's gone over and above a low litter tray. This is about 8 inches tall, and it's specially designed for cages because it has these little nuts and bolts which pokes out through the cage, and the nut just secures that in place. Ferrets will find it a great interest and game to see if they can wedge themselves down behind things, and they will push with their legs hard to see if they can move. So having that attached on both sides will keep your litter tray in place, and it will prevent it from being upside down on the bottom level when you wake up in the morning. Now, as for what goes in the litter tray, we do have an extensive video testing different litter types, and do check that out. If you do not want to try litter, and it can be a messy procedure, but it is the most eco-friendly, then puppy pads are an alternative and are very common, very popular. Now, as I said previously with the floor coverings, and as I mentioned with the litter tray, ferrets will find it a game to dislodge anything that you put in a particular place and see if they can get under it or push it around. So you put one of these on the floor, nice and neat, and you can bet within a few seconds they're trying to get underneath it, or scratching it up, or moving it. So you're going to have to come up with a solution, possibly duct tape, to keep these things down, sellotape down, to stop them getting under it. So you've got the floor coverings, you've got the food, you've got the litter tray in there in place, and the next thing is how to prepare it for their sleeping. And this is the fun bit, because there is quite a variety of fun, soft beds and hammocks and things that they can play in. And all of these are readily supplied with clips to attach easily to your cage. You've got your basic flat hammocks, you can have bowl beds, you can get TP beds, and you can also get cubes, and you can get multi-layered ones. Basically, you choose something you like the look of and give it a go and see how the ferrets get on with it. So whilst these are all fun and ferrets will enjoy snoozing in those beds, there is a critical health point to raise here. Ferrets need access wherever possible to complete darkness from the hours of sunset to sunrise. Now, this is critical as their body reacts with hormones in line with the daylight hours. If you mess with the lighting conditions too much from their usual natural habitat in the northern hemisphere, it can cause problems. So if you do have them indoors in areas of the house where there is lighting for extended periods of the day, then you really need to think about either A, getting them a blackout box to sleep in, or B, having a cover to completely cover or at least part of this cage to allow blackout conditions. We have in the past even given them so much as this rather large nesting box that fits just in there. You can give them access to completely dark sleeping quarters, but obviously takes up a fair bit of space, but you can buy smaller ones if necessary. As for the Ferret Nation, you'll probably find commercial perfect fit cage covers that will give a blackout condition. So now that you've got your cage, it's a sturdy one, it's got metal wires, safe doors, you've put your litter trays in, you've got your water and your food stations, you've got your fun sleeping beds, and you've got your blackout box. And I'm just going to tell you that we don't really want the ferrets spending much time in here. A cage for a ferret is not really living quarters, it's more of a safe zone. They really ought to have dedicated play space, which the cage is open to whilst you're at home during the day, and they only get shut away in the cage for security reasons at night or when you go out for the day. You can see in this video clip that we have a room set up. This isn't a dedicated full-time play space, this was just something we set up as an emergency overrun whilst we were repairing some of their accommodation elsewhere. But you get the idea, nice play space, ferret safe, and with activities that they can just mooch around in all day without you being there. Ferrets are very curious creatures, they want to investigate and they need enrichment. They can't just live in a cage like this all day. They may not need that much time outside of the cage because they do tend to sleep around 18 hours a day. But being free to leave the cage and go back into it when they want allows them to optimize their enrichment and their playtime. If you don't have and you can't give some dedicated play space as well as a cage, then you've really got to question whether a ferret is the right pet for you. Elsewhere on my channel we've got a wealth of videos which cover food and toys and litter and other things for you to consider, as well as health considerations and challenges. So do check those out to make sure you're fully up to speed on what it is to be a ferret owner. So thanks for watching, I hope you found this useful, and do like, subscribe and share to support the channel, and we will see you next time.